This Wednesday, January 8th, NBA Propcast edition of the Propcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up our promo code MACHINE to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000.
As he throws deep downfield, it's going to be caught by
Welcome everyone to the Propcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Wednesday, January 8th, here to get into our NBA player props for the Wednesday night schedule in the association. We'll give you 3 player props each, discuss some honorable mentions, and then we'll wrap it up with best bets and, of course, our Underdog Fantasy entry for the Wednesday card. But joining me, of course, here to help me break everything down on the court and the hardwood, got my guy here with me. It's ChrisBeCappinn. Chris, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
What's up? I'm excited to be a part of the NBA Propcast. We been doing our thing on the NFL side, and hopefully we can try to pick up a little steam with the NBA. So yeah, let's jump into it. We got a big slate today. I think it's a few bets out there that are worth making today. Let's jump into it. I'm excited.
Yeah, should be a fun night of hoops. We got some great matchups. Obviously, the game of the night is going to be the Cavs and the Thunder. Should be a good one. Again, some players back on the court, which is good to see. We saw Zion make his return. Kawhi Leonard back on the court as well. So knock on wood, hopefully these guys are able to stay healthy and we get competitive basketball for the second part of the season. Can't believe we're almost approaching the halfway point of the NBA season. So should be a lot of fun the rest of the way. Obviously, the trade deadline around the corner as well. So, those names and rumors will be ramping up. So we'll talk about more of that on the NBA Propcast, of course, when those trades do transpire and how it'll affect, the team that they're going to and, the team that they're also leaving and what they get back in return. Before we do jump into it here for the NBA player props for Wednesday night, just want to remind everybody the NFL playoffs are here officially starting this weekend. So make sure you guys tune in to the Sports Gambling Podcast with Sean and Ryan for all your NFL picks and your props. All right, Chris, let's dive into it here, man. I'll let you lead it off. First, your first player prop for the NBA tonight.
I'm going with something that has been happening consistently here, and we're going to the game of the night. I think we got to find some angle to have a little bit of change on this first game, So we're looking at Jalen Williams specifically in the matchup against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I was on this under in the game against the Boston Celtics in the last game, and I just feel like the line's been a tad bit too inflated for Jalen Williams. His points plus assists is what I'm looking at specifically. And before I get into the handicap on him specifically, I want to say, at least in my opinion, the Cavs are a team that has the best offense in the NBA, of course. They also have a top 10 defense. I feel like the defense gets overlooked because their offense is so elite that I think that the defense is going to come to show up. Like, this is a, who's the best team in the NBA type of game. Both of these teams having, I think, 5 losses and both of them having 30-plus wins. So I wanted to just kind of throw that part out there first and foremost. But Jalen Williams specifically, this OKC team is a very deep team. I think that's a part of the handicap is that outside of, I think, AJ Mitchell and Alex Caruso, everybody will be a part of the game for them today. So you got key guys, key contributors, if you've been watching OKC, that stepped up in the big moments, right? It's not just a team with SGA and Jalen Williams. You see big games from Wiggins off the bench. You see big games from Isaiah Hardenstein. You see big games from, the three-point shooters that they have out there. There's a lot of guys that contribute, and that become a part of the game. Isaiah Joe off the bench. So Jalen Williams hasn't needed to do as much, I'm looking at his last 10 games. He's actually stayed underneath the points and assists at 26.5 in 9 of the last 10. The only one he went over was a game in Miami on the second leg of a back-to-back. And that game happened on December the 20th. So it's been 8 straight games that he's gone under. 9 of the last 10, he's actually gone under the number. If we just look at the last 20 games, it feels like the books just haven't really adjusted the number down. He's under in 75%. Only 5 times he's gone up and over this number. We're talking about a Cleveland Cavaliers defense that is 9th in points allowed. So top 10 there. And they're 6th, and they allowed the 6th fewest assists as well on the full season, So against the shooting guard position, they're 6th in assists allowed as well. So I don't think that he's going to, necessarily get to his numbers. If you look at, just him in general, he's shooting about 44% from the field, which isn't, necessarily the worst percentage, but his 3-point makes have been down. He's only making about 1.5 on 5 attempts, which is about 33%. So you like that to be a little higher. He's not getting to the free throw line consistently at all either. And then we go last 10 games, that field goal percentage just continues to drop, 42% and only 26% from the 3-point line, only averaging 10.5 potential assists. So I'm thinking the points and assists are a tad bit too high. Typically when we see these, two really good teams, we see a little bit more defense, especially if both of those teams are really good defensively. And we know OKC is the best defense in the NBA. So I'm going Jalen Williams under, to get things started. Best number available is -120. I think this is available over on Bet365. -120 for Jalen Williams. Under 26.5, -120 for Jalen Williams, to get things started.
Yeah, it just feels like that SGA is pretty much the only consistent player when it comes to scoring and getting assists for this Thunder team, and rightfully so, the front runner right now for MVP. But yeah, like you mentioned, it's been different guys stepping up every single night for this OKC Thunder team outside of SGA. And I think that, you mentioned the handicap of how great the offense has been for the Cavs. That's been overshadowed by how good the defense is, especially when you have guys like Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, inside protecting the paint, cleaning up the glass there for you as well. So, yeah, I'd be with you before I'd be against you on this one for sure. I'm going to stay in the same game here, Chris. I'm looking at Isaiah Hartenstein rebounds over 11.5 in this game. And a couple of things that did stick out to me when I was talking about or handicapping Isaiah Hartenstein in this game. So number one, if you take a look at his home and road splits thus far this season, as far as rebounding goes, so overall for the season, Isaiah Hartenstein is averaging 12.2 rebounds per game. At home, 11.4. But it ticks up to about 1.1 more rebounds on the road this season at 12.5. Then I dug a little deeper and I looked at what Isaiah Hartenstein has been able to do against teams that are bottom 10 in allowing the most rebounds to the center position. And against those teams, Isaiah Hartenstein is averaging close to 15 rebounds per game. And I think obviously the books are expecting this to be a close game coming down to the wire. The key number for Isaiah Hartenstein is always going to be playing that 30-minute mark, where right now that's where he's averaging on the season. He plays a little bit more on the road at 31.3. But I think this is a good opportunity here for him to clean up the boards against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I did mention that they have Jared Allen and Evan Mobley there. But over the last 2 weeks, Chris, against the center position, the Cleveland Cavaliers are allowing 15.5 rebounds per game to that center position. So I think it's a good opportunity here for Isaiah Hartenstein. I know he's been a little bit inconsistent as far as rebounding over the past couple games here. But I mean, you take a look at it. He had 14 against the Knicks. He had 15 against the Charlotte Hornets, 13 against the Indiana Pacers. And those are the type of teams that are bottom 10 in rebounds allowed to the center position. So I like Isaiah Hartenstein to have a good game on the glass here. Give me over 11.5 rebounds for Isaiah Hartenstein of the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the reason why I like this so much is because I'm thinking that, I talked about this as part of my handicap for the game as well. I'm thinking that this is going to be a game with a bunch of missed shots. I know the Thunder are, I think the Thunder's offense is better at home than it is on the road, but it's not even that they have the greatest of offenses. If they just move the ball really, they play freely, they play together, but they don't have a great offense. They have a really great defense. And Isaiah Hartenstein being there creates a lot of offensive rebound opportunities, especially with them, shooting a bunch of threes. And then on the opposite side, you mentioned it. Somebody's going to have to go down there and contend with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers have not played against the number one defense in the NBA. Yep. So while they are the number one rated offense, that should create a lot more rebound opportunities in this game. So I definitely agree with you. I like the look on Isaiah Hartenstein to go up and over 11.5 boards here. All
right, let's keep it rolling here. Chris, take us over to player prop number 2, man. What do you got?
All right, so player prop number 2, kind of going back and forth. If I want your thoughts on this player specifically, and then maybe I'll play whatever it is that we whatever the consensus is with what we're looking at. I'm looking at Anthony Simons. I like his 3.5 threes. This is no juice really on it at all. He's been just really consistent cashing the line on the full season. Looking at Anthony Simons, he's only up and over in 38% of his games so far, 12 for 32. But more recently, he's been cooking. You know, if I'm looking at him last 10 games, he's up and over in 7 of the last 10, but 5 straight games he's gone up and over this number. He hit 4 threes against the Dallas Mavericks. He hit 4 threes against the Philadelphia 76ers, 4 threes against my Los Angeles Lakers to start this road trip. This is the 4th game of a 5-game road trip in the first leg of a back-to-back for the Portland Trail Blazers against the New Orleans Pelicans, which we'll talk a little bit more about their 3-point defense in a second. But also 5 threes against the Bucks over the weekend, you know, and he followed that up with 8 threes against the Detroit Pistons. So he's just really just kind of in a groove right now. If I just isolate to the last 5 games for Anthony Simons, the minutes are there. He's averaging, you know, north of 36. He's shooting 49% from the 3-point line on 10.5 attempts, you know. So if we just do the math, you know, in the most recent numbers, he's cashing. This should say more closer to 5 threes if you're going to shoot 10 attempts and you know, make 49% here, you know. And we're talking about a Pelicans defense that's the last thing. Well, second to last thing. On the road, he's cashed in 3 straight games with 4, 5, and 8, like we just talked about. And then you get into the Portland Trail Blazers defense. This is a team that's playing 5th game in 8 nights with the rest disadvantage, even though they're at home. And they give up a ton of threes, 24th above the, you know, in defense against the 3-point shot. Against point guards, specifically 28th. They do limit shooting guards down to 2nd, but they give up a ton of threes. You know, I'm thinking Anthony Simons can come in here and keep it close and excuse me, can help keep this game close. We see a 2.5-point spread. So, you know, the bookmakers are putting this as a potential winnable game, even though the Portland Trail Blazers haven't won a lot of games at all. And the head-to-head matchup doesn't really mean a lot, but in the last 2 of the last 4, it doesn't mean a lot in my opinion, but in 2 of the last 4, you know, if he's going up and over the number, hit 5 threes, and when he stayed under, he's hit 2 and 3. So finished on the hook in 1, but up and over in the 2 of the other 4 games. So I like Anthony Simons. The contemplation for myself, you know, is that if he didn't get to the threes, that he would just get to the points specifically. Yep. The line is set at 22.5, and that's very consistent with his 3-point, you know, shot kind of going in. He's coming off a 36-point game against Detroit, 28 against the Bucks. And these are, you know, 2 of the top 10 defensive rated teams over the last handful of games. Also got to 23 against the Lakers, 25 against the Philadelphia 76ers. I think another part of the handicap for myself, you know, is that Jeremy Grant has been missing. We know that they paid Jeremy Grant as if he was, you know, an MLB player, even though he probably doesn't deserve those funds. But that's neither here nor there. Without his offense on the floor, it kind of feels like Anthony Simons has had to step up a little bit more and play a little bit, you know, play a little bit more on the offensive end. You also got Deni Avdija potentially not being there. So it looks like the offense has kind of had to come through Anthony Simons. I'm looking at the numbers without Jeremy Grant on the floor, you know, and in the last 10 games without him, he's up and over in 7 of the 10 games so far without Anthony. The last 10 games, 7 of the last 10 without Anthony Simons on the floor. This season specifically has been 6 games without Jeremy Grant, and he's up and over in 5 of the 6. So 83% hit rate to his points over at 22.5 without Jeremy Grant on the floor. What is your thoughts on threes versus points here?
So one thing that I noticed over the last 2 weeks has been shooting guards against the Pelicans has been a very, very profitable angle. And what put it over the top for me is when I see my guy Jalen Green dropping 30 points on them. That's where I really need to start getting on these shooting guards. I think there was a game right after, I think a week later, where Jalen Green went off for 30. In that game, he was 6-11 from 3. And then Tyler Hero followed it up a week later. I was on Tyler Hero's points, and that one cashed easily. He had 32 in that game. But it's, Chris, I think it's correlated because if you take a look at the shooting guards that have scored 23 or more points as a shooting guard against the Pelicans, it's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different shooting guards. It's been Norman Powell, Anthony Edwards, Tyler Hero, Jalen Green, James Harden. We can consider as a shooting guard / point guard, Jordan Poole, and also, Jesus Christ, Dylan Brooks is on this list here as well. I know Dylan Brooks is not really a shooting guard, but every single one of those guys, except for Jordan Poole, had at least 4 or more three-pointers made, and all of those guys that scored 26 or more points as a shooting guard position classified against the Pelicans had 10 or more attempts from beyond the arc as well against the Pelicans. So I think that you mentioned it with Anthony Simons, that a lot of his shots, anytime I see a player like Anthony Simons who if he's of, so let me phrase it this way. His total shot attempts from the floor, if I'm seeing more than 50% of those coming from beyond the arc, like Anthony Simons is, I have an inclination to play both because I feel like it's correlated. So I would go with the points over. I would go with the three-pointers over. If you had a gun to my head and told me here, you told me here, Munaf, here's $100 of my money, go put it on a bet for me, I would probably go with the three-point shots just because in the 3 games that he's played in December, he's averaging 19.3 shot attempts from the floor. 11 of those 19 are coming from beyond the arc. So, yeah, I would go threes, but again, I think it's correlated that if he gets over his threes, I think he gets over the numbers of his points prop there as well. All right. So that's player prop number 2 from Chris. Before we do get over to my second player prop of the night, I mentioned it, playoffs. Yeah, we're talking about playoffs. You bet we are. Getting in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is key to winning in the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the number one place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score 6. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. And of course, you guys know I'm going to be betting on my guy, Nico Collins of the Houston Texans this week to score a touchdown in the game against the Chargers. Currently, Nico Collins is plus 145 to score a touchdown, anytime touchdown against the Chargers. Again, keep in mind, the odds will shift and lines and odds are subject to change. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code SGP. That's code SGP for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is
Gambling
yours.
problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
All right, Chris, let me get over to player prop number 2 for myself. I will stay on the rebounding front here, and I'm going to go with Giannis here tonight on his rebound. That number was sitting at 11.5 last night. I believe it's moved to 12.5 now for Giannis. They're playing the San Antonio Spurs here tonight. Definitely excited to watch this one, but definitely shop around. There's still 11.5 juice out there, but it's starting to move towards 12.5. I'll give it out at 12.5 because I still like it at that number. Again, Giannis is playing at an MVP level, maybe not at the level of what Jokic and SGA are doing right now, but he's really propelling his team to winning ball games. I know they were in a little bit of a slump coming out of the NBA Cup. They had lost prior to the Toronto game in their last game. They had lost 4 of their last 5 games. But Giannis he's in mid-season form right now, and it's really great to see. San Antonio Spurs over the last 2 weeks here, Chris, as far as rebounding goes, to the powered forward position, they're allowing 11.1 rebounds, and then to the center position, they're allowing 16.6 rebounds per game to that center position as well. So, we can say Giannis is both a power forward and a center, at least when it comes to the rebounding front. But historically, Giannis has had a lot of success, not only scoring points against the Spurs over the last 3 matchups, but also grabbing rebounds. We take a look at his last 3 games against the San Antonio Spurs, or I should say last 4 games. 28 points, 13 rebounds, 31 points, 14 rebounds, 11 points, 14 rebounds, and then 44 points, 14 rebounds last season for Giannis. So, and you also take a look at his recent form. He did notch a triple-double in his last game against the Toronto Raptors. He's at 11, I should say 12 or more rebounds for the last 5 games. So I do think that he could have a great night rebound in the basketball here. If you want to tack on the assist for him as well, I couldn't talk you off of that, but definitely shop around, get the best number if you want to get that 11.5 for Giannis. Let me see where it is available for it. Pretty much consensus is at 12.5 now, but I think that he gets another 14 rebounds in this game at minimum for the Milwaukee Bucks here. So give me Giannis over 12.5 rebounds here tonight against the San Antonio Spurs, Chris.
Yeah, I think I like the rebounds and assists. We'll talk about Giannis in honorable mention as far as his points go, because I kind of want your thoughts on this. But what I will say is I saw he was kind of being funny, in the game against Toronto. I didn't see what happened, but he banged his hand, I guess, pretty badly. I'm not sure if you saw that. He got some stitches in his hand, and he said, "It's okay, we got the win. My wife still loves me, So he was talking about kind of being okay. I'm guessing he might have it bandaged up, but this is a big time game. This is the second game on ESPN tonight, so national TV game. And I'm kind of the mindset that we see Giannis usage continues to soar, even with Chris Middleton being back in the lineup. If you mentioned the triple-double that he's coming off against the Toronto Raptors, this is definitely a better defense than the San Antonio Spurs, however. But it does feel like Giannis will have his impact in this game, So go on his rebounds. I think the rebounds plus assists, just because the usage has been so high for him, I could not talk you off of any of those numbers. It looks like, 12.5? We're expecting the San Antonio Spurs, which they're not a great offense, but they have been pretty good on the defensive end to create some more opportunities against, some more opportunities for rebound chances with the San Antonio Spurs and Milwaukee game today. So I definitely agree with you. I think would definitely be with you before I'm against you on this over 12.5 boards tonight against the San Antonio Spurs.
All right, let's get over to player prop number 3, Chris. What do you got?
So same game, if I actually like I like Dame in this game. I do think, based on what I said with Giannis, hand injury, not that he's not going to go out there and play. I do think he's going to, suit up and grab some boards, hopefully for your sake. I think he will do that. But I'm looking at Dame, also another 3-point prop here. Line is at 3.5, no juice on it, -110. The recent form is not going to say that Dame is, necessarily been cashing this number, but I think it's a really good matchup. And I also think that recent form will also say that, Dame after the Cup, it was kind of weird, if he's played in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he's only played in 5 games since the Cup. There's been probably 10 games for the San Antonio Spurs. For the Milwaukee Bucks since the Cup when they beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. But he missed a full week and a half of basketball after that. So I don't want to give him too much shade for going under in 3 of the last 5 games because it's taken him a while. I've listened to some post-game interviews and heard him talk about, losing weight because he literally couldn't keep food down and was literally just in the bed, vomiting over and over again, lost some weight, was able, like I said, missed a full week, almost 2 weeks of basketball. And since he came back, it's taken him a while to kind of get back into his groove. Against the Pacers, he did finish on the hook with 3 threes. Against Brooklyn, he did go up and over and hit 4. And then against Portland, they just kind of talked about, being out of a rhythm or a groove. And so I knew it was a nice bounce back for him in Toronto. Line was at 3.5. He hit 5 in that game. And I'm thinking that we start to see Dame kind of get back into his form, even in the last 10 games with those, games where he hasn't necessarily shot the ball, really well. He still shot 37% in the last 5 games from the 3-point line. He's still getting up, 8, 9, 10, 11, even 13 attempts against the Brooklyn Nets in the most recent games. And I'm looking at San Antonio, they while they have been pretty good against the 3-point shot, they give up a ton of above the break threes. We know Dame loves to shoot the above the break 3. They're giving up they're 23rd in 3-point, an opponent 3-point above the break frequency. So only 7 teams are allowing this shot to be taken at that, that consistent level. And I'm looking at the Bucks. We know that they're a 3-point shooting team. That's what they want. They want Giannis to get downhill and to find their 3-point shooters. A lot of the times that has been, Damian Lillard. Specifically the Bucks, 8th in above the break 3-point frequency, 6th in above the break 3-point makes, on the full season. And over the last 10 games, they're kind of getting back into their form after having a couple dips and being inconsistent. 12th and above the break 3 frequency and 9th and above the break 3 accuracy. So they are shooting about 37%, which is right on point, right on par to what Damian Lillard is doing as well. I just think it's a really good matchup. If you go head to head and look at it, the last time that they played, he only hit 1 in San Antonio, but the last time San Antonio came to Milwaukee, he actually hit 7. So I'm thinking Dame, continues to find his rhythm. The hand injury for Giannis may limit his ability to be able to score the basketball, but I don't think it's, like I said, I don't think it's going to impact him being able to rebound or facilitate. And I think a couple of those assists from Giannis could come to Dame. I like his threes up and over 3.5 today at -110.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about Dame against the Spurs, but he's averaging 27 points per game against the Spurs in his career as well. But we talk a lot about buy low spots, right? Whether it's in the NFL or whether it's in the NBA, and I think this is one of those spots here. There's just something going around the locker rooms, or I don't know if they're back to licking doorknobs, or I don't know what they're doing with all these illnesses that are happening in the NBA. We saw Jokic, get scratched yesterday. He was sent home with an illness, and I mean, maybe again it's flu season or the weather change, whatever the case might be. But
it's the planes, if it's the planes, it's the germs that's on the plane from the food that they're getting. That's I don't know what it is. Licking doorknobs is better food
than we do on plane and the
they absolutely do.
And all, I know about that.
Maybe it's the germs when you just travel that high into the air. Maybe we need to clean the air. When you're 10,000 feet or higher, because a lot of plane rides and a lot of illnesses are definitely correlated to. It seems like.
But you mentioned, right, the last 4 head-to-head meetings against the Spurs, and this obviously does go back when he was with Portland, that he had 7 threes in 3 of the last 4 games against the San Antonio Spurs there. So, a good buy low spot here. I believe Chris Middleton is out for this game, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he's probable. I think
it was the last game that he got ruled out, is what I'm thinking.
Yes,
but
yes, last game he did get ruled out.
Yeah, so a good spot here, I think, for Dame in a buy low situation. All right, for my third player prop here, Chris, the maxi points are, I was looking at it, but it's at 30.5, and not something I want to get to. I know Paul George is officially out for this game. I think Joel Embiid was ruled out as well, or more than likely.
And Kyle Lowry. No, they're both out.
They're
all three
both
of them
out.
are out.
Yeah.
Yep, all 3. Kyle Lowry too.
Yeah, so I think I'll pivot to Kelly Oubre Jr. in this spot. Maxey could go off, but Kelly Oubre, I think now has to be that secondary scorer next to Tyrese Maxey, with those guys being out. The number right now is 17.5 for Kelly Oubre Jr. Yeah, on the season, he's only averaging 13.2 points per game, but you take a look at last game against the Phoenix Suns, where they did have Paul George and Tyrese Maxey out there, scored 26 points. So I think the one underrated part about Kelly Oubre Jr.'s game is his ability to rebound the basketball, especially on the offensive side. He has a lot of those putback dunks. So I think now going up against a Wizards team that's not very good at rebounding either, right? That's something that we've talked about a lot, not only on the Propcast, but on the NBA pod as well, that they just don't do a very good job of rebounding the basketball due to the Wizards. So I think, number one, I think Oubre can have a good opportunity in this game to get offensive rebounds, putback dunks, things like that. So I like Kelly Oubre in the spot. 17.5 is the number. And even if this game does turn into a blowout, I think he might just still have to be out there, because of the availability for some of these guys on the Philadelphia 76ers side of things. So I'll go with Kelly Oubre Jr. over 17.5 points as my third player prop here, Chris.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some numbers, without Joel Embiid and without Paul George, it looks like he's only played 10 games. Well, 10 games this season without him. And he's averaging right at 16 points. But, you get the worst defense in the NBA on the second leg of a back-to-back. Third game in 4 nights for the Wizards. Fourth game in 6 nights. And fifth game in 8 nights for the Wizards. So the usage is going to have to come from somewhere. It looks like he always like to look at field goal attempts, to see if we can get about a point per field goal attempt. Oubre shooting 45% in the games without the 10 games that the Philadelphia 76ers have played without Joel Embiid and Paul George on the floor this season. Looks like they've been 10 games so far this season, and he's shooting 45% from the field on 13.5, a little north of 13.5 attempts. I was kind of looking at this, I kind of feel like I'll save it for honorable mentions. His 3-point prop, I'll come back to it, but his 3-point prop at 1.5. I know he hasn't been hitting them consistently, but you're not gonna get a better defense here, 1.5. I see the number at -110 on FanDuel. Oh, never mind. Just moved to -120. I was gonna say -110 on FanDuel, but all the other books had it at -135. So I mean, it literally just moved and blinked red on my eye screen. But yeah, Kelly Oubre, points you like at 17.5. I like it. His 3-point prop, just for him to needing 2, feels like, I know he hasn't been shooting consistently, consistently. He's only shooting 30%, but boy, that's that number. Just the odds on that, I think would probably get me to get there on his threes as well. I like the find the pivot off of Maxey. Somebody, I mean, that's a ton of shots, right? Ton of shots, ton of points without, not even just without Embiid and PG, but also without Kyle Lowry out there as well. This Philadelphia 76ers team is more of a defensive team than an offensive team. They really struggle to kind of hit their groove offensively. But they should be able to score against the Wizards. Wizards also, I think, top 5 in pace on the full season and over the last 5 games as well. So Oubre over his points should be a good look here.
All right, before we get over to honorable mentions here, let me just tell everyone about our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Pick'em is one of the biggest menus of all sports. Underdog is always making it easier to win with profit boosts and give you pick'ems. Underdog Playoff Best Ball is now live. The Gauntlet Tournament has $2 million in prizes up for grabs for just a $25 entry. NFL, college football, college basketball, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, and more. You can now use specials and boosts on all flex entries. Sign up with promo code MACHINE to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Make sure you use that promo code MACHINE. All right, Chris, let's get into some honorable mentions here before we wrap up the episode here. Anything you're looking at, trying to get to the window with, but just can't seem to pull the trigger?
The one player that sticks out to me the most, and I don't have a long list of honorable mentions, so I'll just give you my thoughts on this one guy, and then you tell me what you think. Tyrese Halliburton, we talked about this at the beginning of the season. I know he's listed as questionable, so that's something to monitor throughout the day, of course. But we're looking at a Tyrese Halliburton, that's really struggled on the full season, right? If we look at his number, his points prop today is listed at 20.5, and he's only up and over the number in 38% of his games. 14 of the 37 games that he's played, he's gone up and over the number. But if you just kind of look at the recent trends, Tyrese Halliburton is very correlated with the Indiana Pacers being 7-3 straight up and against the spread in their last 10 games. He's really figured it out. If we isolate this to just home games for Tyrese Halliburton, it's been a lot better. A lot of those games they struggled were on the road. So just isolating his full game, his full season at 38% hit rate over the 20.5 points. If we just look at his home games, it automatically goes up to 47%. He's played 15 home games. He's up and over the number in 7 of the last 15, in 7 of the 15. But then we get into recent form with Tyrese Halliburton, and over his last 10 games, the most recent, the furthest 5 away of the last 10, he failed to get the number every single time. He had 19 points, and that was the highest. Last 5, though, 31 points against Boston, 12 against the Milwaukee Bucks. He struggled in that game. That was the game that they came home after beating Boston. But then he plays against a Miami team that's a really good defensive team. He has 33 in Miami. Against the Phoenix Suns, another slow-paced team that, I don't know what to say about Phoenix right now, but he had 27 in that game. And then against Brooklyn, on the road, a slow-paced Brooklyn team that, just trying to play slow, milk the clock, he has 23. So last 5 games, this dude is up and over 4 the last 5, averaging 35 minutes. He's shooting 48% from the field, shooting 40% from the three-point line. And I'm just not ready to buy in that Chicago is that much better on the defensive end. I know that they're 7-3 to the under. I know that they've won 4 of their last 5 games. I know that they just came back and beat the San Antonio Spurs. I just kind of feel like, in this spot, we should probably be looking at Tyrese Halliburton, specifically at home. They played one time this season. He did have 23 points in that game. He shot 9 for 17 from the field in that game and hit 5 of his 9 threes, shot 56% from the field. So that's my one honorable mention. You know, I'm not sure if I'll get there with Halliburton. Kind of want to, like I said, see how, you know, how shoot around goes for him. If he even attends shoot around with him being listed as questionable. But Tyrese Halliburton was the guy that I was looking at, you know, up and over his 20.5 points. Interested to know your thoughts on Halliburton at the crib today against the Bulls, and then whatever honorable mentions you got that you want to talk about as well.
Yeah, I think with the recent form, what you mentioned with Hallie, I mean, I think it's just this season where he's just really, really been inconsistent, because there was times, last season, the season prior, where we were just automatically betting the over on his assists, and it was just cashing like printing money at the ATM. He's played in 8 meetings against the Bulls as a player for the Indiana Pacers. He's had 1, 2, 3 games where he's had 21 or more points against the Chicago Bulls. I understand why it is an honorable mention. I probably couldn't get to the window with it just because of his inconsistencies. But again, when you look at the total in this game, it's at what, 239 now, 232, it's up to 241 and a half now. So the books are expecting points to be put up in this game here. Yeah, I'd be on the sideline for this one for Hallie. It's just too many inconsistencies for me to bet the under or even the over for Hallie. As far as honorable mentions for myself, I didn't really have much. SGA points, it's right at the number. If your book offers those first half or first quarter point prop bets, SGA in the first quarter has been really good, and he's also been really good in the second half as well. So if you see that he's struggling maybe in the first half, I would look at a live opportunity for SGA in the second half of games. We talked about how bad the Wizards are as far as rebounding goes. If you want to look at a rebounding prop for the Sixers side of things, Gerson Yabusele is the name at 7.5 right now, over 7.5. I think he could get 8 rebounds here, obviously without Paul George, without Joel Embiid out there. So I think that's an opportunity for him. But those were the 2 that I wanted to throw out there as far as honorable mentions go. All right, Chris, let's get into best bets here to wrap up the episode here. I'll let you lead it off. Where are you taking us for your best bet?
We'll go Anthony Simons. You know, if I think we talked enough about it to make me pretty confident that he can keep it going today. He got the rest advantage. We mentioned, you know, after looking a little bit deeper without Jeremy Grant on the floor, he's crushed the number. So I think he keeps it going today. I'll take his points over his threes, because I do think that he gets to 23. I think that's highly predicated on him hitting 4 threes. But yeah, we talked about it. Over in 5 straight games on the road, 7 of his last 10. He's been the cash cow on this road trip. You know, if I think he keeps it going today against a New Orleans Pelicans team that's still struggling, specifically against guards, as you mentioned. So we'll go Anthony Simons up and over 22.5 points. Best bet.
Love it. All right, for my best bet, I'll go to one Isaiah Hartenstein over 11.5 rebounds here tonight. Books are expecting this to be a close game. We talked about how good these teams are defensively, and how well Isaiah Hartenstein has done against teams that allow the most rebounds to the center position, averaging 15 per game. He's averaging a little bit more on the road there as well, is Isaiah Hartenstein. So I'll go over 11.5 rebounds as my best bet for the game tonight between the Thunder and the Cavs. All right, last order of business before we wrap it up, underdogfantasy.com. Make sure you guys use our promo code MACHINE. For new account users, you get a deposit bonus of up to 50% of up to $1,000. So make sure you guys get over there, underdogfantasy.com. Make sure you use our promo code MACHINE. All right, so we'll start here with Simons. I'll throw his higher 22.5 points. Go Hartenstein. Higher 11.5 rebounds. That's a spicy odds. I like that. And then let's find one more here, Chris, to make it a 3-pick entry for tonight.
You got Hartenstein and Simons?
I got Hartenstein and Simons.
I like your Oubre look, I think
Oubre.
fast-paced game with the Wizards, no Embiid, Paul actually can go for 50, yeah, but I mean, shouldn't Oubre be able to get to 18 as well? I like your look with Kelly Oubre, being the guy that steps up. I don't trust. I know Yabusele can have a big game. I know, he still got Caleb Martin, but I think 17.5 is a little high for Kelly Oubre, and I think it's high for a reason. So I like that potential 20-point game for Kelly Oubre here. I like that a lot.
All right, so we'll throw in Kelly Oubre higher 17.5 points. So our entry here for tonight, excuse me, Anthony Simons higher 22.5 points, Isaiah Hartenstein higher 11.5 rebounds, and Kelly Oubre Jr. the Sixers higher 17.5 points. That'll get you a 6.24x entry. Every $10 that you do put in, you'll get a return of $62.40 if all three of those, in fact, are correct. Again, underdogfantasy.com. Make sure you use that promo code MACHINE. And that is going to wrap it up for this edition of the NBA Propcast. A lot of fun. If you are watching live, stay tuned because Scott and Terrell are up next for the NBA slate. They'll break down each side and total for the Wednesday card. And Chris and I will be back later this week for the NFL Propcast for Super Wild Card Weekend for our player props for that. So definitely look out for us then. Chris, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
Nah, man, I think we did a pretty good job. Enjoy the games as always, and best of luck on all your action for today.
Yeah, 100%. Make sure you guys follow Chris over on Twitter. That's at ChrisBeCappinn with 2 P's and 2 N's. You can follow me there as well at SportsNerd824. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Propcast on YouTube. Do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. And if you are listening on the audio version, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, wherever you do get your audio podcast, do us a favor, leave us a rating and review if you do enjoy these shows. All right, we'll be back later this week for NFL, like I mentioned. Till then, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off, and always remember to let it ride.